We're recording. Great. Hello. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of My Favourite Lyrics. My name's George. I play music under the name Trev. And every episode, I'm going to be interviewing friends, musicians, people I just want to chat to, and asking them to share some of their favourite lyrics. It sounds simple. It really is that simple. We're just going to talk about some of our favourite lyrics. And because this is episode 1, we thought rather than kind of like starting small, I thought I'd go straight I'd hire the bar straight away. And so I've got one of my oldest friends, Dan Lucas, who's joining me today. Dan, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, all the better for chatting to you on Zoom, of course.
Such a flirt. I love it. And we've already talked about your parrot jumper. We just got to draw attention to that.
Little tiny parrots on there. Look, a few leaves as well.
I love it.
Bringing the tropics to Stouting.
I love it. For those who don't know, Stouting is a very rural village near where I grew up in Kent, actually. And so it needs some more palm trees. It does, for sure. It's good.
More palm trees and tropical birds. Look, there's half a coconut with a straw as well.
What more do you need?
Bases are covered. You cannot lose.
Big time. I feel like I've read like a million blogs on different people's opinions of how they've been getting through lockdown. And it turns out all you need is a bright parrot jumper.
Yeah, the only thing is you have to go to Italy to get it.
Really?
Yeah, in Italy, they've got these shops. They might have them elsewhere, like they're called Scout, and they've just got really cool clothes in them. And yeah, like they just had a load of these cool jumpers. I've got another one that's just got loads of random bowling pins on it.
Mate, I love it.
But yeah, you have to fly to Italy, which you can't in lockdown. And so yeah.
Well, if we might get some messages after this, like of people wanting your email to get orders in for next time.
Yeah, where did you get that? How am I ever going to look that cool?
The questions we're all asking when we're around Dan Lucas. Mate, so we've known each other for a really long time. I think we first met when I was, I think I was 12 or 13, and you were playing in. I'm going to share some embarrassing facts. I don't know if I've ever shared this stuff with you, but we met, and I was playing in a sort of a post-hardcore band with some guys at school who are a little bit older than me. Shout out Jack Norris, Jack Matcham, those guys, good people. And I remember you were playing in a band at a time called Jairus, which was we were all just absolutely obsessed with. And I was so nervous about meeting you that to sort of add to the sort of nervousness, I think the other guys in the band like nicked my trousers and hid them up the street that this house was on where we were rehearsing at, hoping that you would turn up whilst I was in my boxes. So there you go. I didn't know I was going to get so.
Yeah, I think you'd got them back by the time I'd arrived.
Yeah, thankfully.
I remember you were playing in like inside a sort of walk-in wardrobe or something.
I think I saw a photo of that the other day, and it literally was there. I think they had just cleared out a cupboard and had stuck me in there with a drum kit. And I was looking at the photo, and I have no idea how I used to get in. I must have had to like climb over the drums.
I remember you having a really big kit as well at the time. I think I could be wrong.
No, I did. I think I had. Well, no, I know exactly what that kit was, and I think it had like five toms.
I remember there being all tom, because you were like tiny as well, and I remember there being all like loads of toms covering over you.
Yeah.
And the top of your head poking above. Yeah, it was a Mapex, wasn't it? Like a brownie sunburst colour Mapex.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is Caramel Fade, Dan. I think that's what it was in the catalogue.
Obviously.
Yeah, it was the way. I mean, I think at that point I was still mainly listening to my dad's music. So my favourite drummer, I think at that point, was Ian Pace from Deep Purple. And I got a clamp so I could, because he has 3 rack toms, but he sets them up in like a triangle, and then he has 2 floor toms. So I was just so I tried to do the same thing. But mate, so embarrassing.
Got more and set them up in an octagon shape instead.
All around.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry.
No, it's good. I mean, so that was kind of the really long way of introing how I know you. But for those who are watching who don't know you, like why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what life's looked like for you, maybe a little bit over the last year. Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, I am a musician, and I'm a producer. I record bands, and I'm a mix engineer as well. But yeah, I play bass in a band called Jayne, a sort of alternative rock band, and I also play guitar in a band called Vendetta, which again I guess is sort of alternative rock as well, sort of dark alt rock stuff. I am a multi-instrumentalist, and actually don't really do a lot other than music related stuff at the moment. But fortunately, I live next door to where my studio is, so during the lockdown, at least I've had this place where I can come and hang out and play around with pedals and practice drums and all that kind of stuff.
And the Kent countryside, just at your door as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we're lucky we've got nice gardens here, and like, well, until the end of summer, I could at least hang out in the gardens, go for nice walks in the countryside, walk the dogs, and hang out in the studio. And that's all I tend to do anyway, really. But obviously, usually I would be playing shows and touring and stuff as well, which, as we all know, has come to a standstill. But yeah, the studio's made it easier, and I've still been able to work because I live here. Whereas a lot of people were recording stuff at home, people have sent me stuff to mix, or I've been doing creative remixes of tracks for bands and stuff. So
yeah,
I've been all right. I miss the live side of things, and just seeing live music, but at least I've been able to do music in some capacity.
Yeah, it's great. And have you done many live stream gigs over? Because that obviously became a whole genre of gig which we never anticipated a year
I
ago.
think that was certainly for the first part of like the first lockdown, everyone was doing stuff like that, and it was sort of a bit of a novelty. Chess and I, Chess is also in Jayne, and because we're together, like we obviously live together, so we were able to do some Jayne live streams for some of these online festivals, which were cool. But I think once you've done 3 or 4, it's sort of just more of the same. And I think the novelty wore off quite quickly for a lot of people, and so yeah, that's not happening now. I know, like, certainly at one point people were really into it. One girl I know had even sort of staged her own mini festival at home. Like, I think she'd set up a tent in her lounge, and got those plastic cups to drink beer out of, and all that kind of stuff. It made like a YouTube playlist of her favorite live gigs to watch on the TV, but it's not the same, really. I think I was getting to a point, I think, by the end of the summer where I was just crying out for like a 60 quid parking fine from Camden High Street for loading in outside of venues, like a cold McDonald's or something.
That's one of the things I remember you saying, because when I was younger and I was kind of, I was in bands, but we weren't kind of at the stage where we were touring and things like that. And you had been on like proper tours, like, not, Japan or all these kind of places. And I remember being like, just what must have been one of the first times I came to your old studio and just asking you, like, so what's the rock and roll lifestyle like, Dan? What's it like touring all these places? And you said, like, I think your exact line was, it's mainly about not getting scurvy, which I just thought was so. And then I basically talked about, just trying to make sure you're eating fruit like once every other day.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly, like, when the first band I sort of properly toured with was Jairus, and I think on our first tour, we loaded the van up with crates of beer and all sorts of other stuff, and kind of thought it would be this massive party. But when you're touring at that kind of level, so we were traveling around in a crappy van and sleeping on promoters' floors and things like that. After a few days of sort of having it large and necking drinks and partying, like, you just realize, you know what, I'm not going to survive at more than a few days of doing this. So you can always tell the bands that have got touring experience at that grassroots sort of level, because they're the ones with crates of water, nuts, seeds, multivitamins.
Yeah.
It's different, I think, when you're a bigger band and you're traveling on like a nightliner bus and you've got a road crew, you can indulge a bit more in that sort of thing. But touring at that level, I mean, we did the last sort of toury thing I did was this show. It was with Violet Vendetta in October 2019.
And you were supporting a small unknown British band, weren't you? I think.
Yeah, some Muppets from Crawley. But no, it was opening for The Cure in Mexico City in a stadium, and witnessing something of that kind of scale, you're like, actually, I can see how these bands can stay on tour for like a year or so, and how they can indulge in that kind of lifestyle, because you've got amazing hotel rooms, amazing vehicles that are transporting you, you know, like first class flights and all that kind of stuff, decent meals, catering. So it's a lot easier. But certainly, like being in a hardcore band and sleeping in a van sometimes, like yeah, you've got to be really careful.
Yeah, totally, mate. That's so, yeah. I just remember you demystifying it so much all those years ago. But yeah, no, it's good. I've done a say again.
Sorry, I think being in the middle of nowhere, the internet's a bit slow. So if I interrupt you, that's why. But like yeah, I think sort of at that sort of level, you know, there's often times where you're on tour and you're thinking, what on earth am I doing? Like, why am I doing this with my life? But it's great to talk about it afterwards. And then when you're back and you're sleeping in your own bed and stuff, you're like, oh, that was great actually. And then you go and do it again, and then you end up in the same position again where you're thinking, what on earth am I doing this for? But
yeah,
I think it's just ingrained in some people.
Yeah, it makes me think of. I think we'll talk about her a little bit later as another artist. Actually, you introduced me to a few years ago, but I love that song Kyoto off of Punisher by
Yeah,
Phoebe Bridgers, and which is all about that. I think it's all about that
yeah,
sense of like, you know, kind of. I kind of living the dream, and
yeah.
then getting there and sort of feeling maybe a little bit numb and detached, and
Oh, definitely.
yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
that's
Anyway,
my favorite song off of that second record, actually.
oh wow,
It's
I
got
remember.
such a great hook, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's so good. I remember listening because I think it was the first thing she released off of that before the album came out. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Yeah, off of that
either that or
newer
Garden
album.
Song. Yeah, of that. But I remember you just really kind of understated when we were doing the um second. Oh yeah, one of the so yeah. So anyway, wait a second. So you're a producer, you're a musician, session musician, multi instrumentalist. You also have recorded all the Trev releases. I'm just gonna quickly put that in there,
Yeah,
which I'm sure is on your like top 5
that
highlights
is
of
the
your musical.
pinnacle.
Thanks, man.
Never been equaled.
But I remember us doing the second Trev EP, and you just like us really understated. We were finishing up one day, and you said, "Oh, by the way, there's this girl who just released this album, this American girl, and I think you'd really like it." And I remember you playing. Me and one of my friends, Wes, were in the studio with you, and you played us one of these songs. And honestly, for the entire rest of the week, I was just playing that
Yeah.
album, "Stranger in the Alps," just on loop. Like it was just one
That
of those moments where it's always good to be kind of kind of sort of like thankful for recommendations that friends give you, but
yeah.
it's rare for someone to actually recommend something and you're like completely taken by it.
It's funny that it
Yeah,
seems to be a thing with Phoebe Bridgers and that record. Like, there's a few people I know. Kate Winty is one.
yeah,
My friend Lauren. But pretty much everyone I've shown that to has had the same thing. They'll listen to it here, and then they are literally obsessed with it. And I was the same when I first heard it. I was like, I don't know about you. Like, I find it hard now. A lot of the stuff I listen to has been around for ages, and it's rare that I hear a band now or a new thing that I've never heard before, where where I get really excited about it.
Yeah.
And that was certainly one of them.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well said. I'm with you. Yeah. So, oh, dude, honestly, I before we press record on this, I think I was saying to you, like, oh, well, we'll just like chat for like 15, 20 minutes. And then obviously we start talking together and I feel like this could be
Yeah,
turning
20
into like a
minutes
2-hour
gone.
thing.
So, yeah. No, thank you. And thanks for watching.
We're heading for the hour mark now. But,
Yeah.
But mate, so this little thing, whatever this thing is called My Favorite Lyrics, and is to do exactly what we've been doing, just talking around things. But I'd love to. I know you've had a little think, and I'd love to hear maybe the first of your kind of favorite lyrics. I know you know it's probably really hard to narrow it down, but so what have you got for us? Like what's the kind of your first selection? I think I told you to choose 3.
Yeah,
so what's your
3.
first one?
They're all a bit varied, but the first one I've chosen is a song called Ebolarama, by a band called Every Time I Die, who are sort of, I guess, a kind of hardcorey, metalcorey, post-punky sort of band who were, I mean, they're still huge now, but they kind of came out in the early 2000s. I think they're from Buffalo, New York. Really techie, sort of brutal kind of stuff, but the vocalist Keith Buckley is well known for his sarcasm and razor sharp wit, and they always stood out to me Every Time I Die because they were one of the bands that actually had some really interesting lyrics that kind of made you think a little bit outside of the box. But yeah, I mean, those particular lyrics, I don't know what the meaning of them are. I quite like lyrics where you can kind of interpret them in your own way, but my theory about that particular set of lyrics is that, you know, like in the sort of 70s and 80s especially, there were a lot of like rock and roll bands that would sing about just getting drunk and sleeping with girls and partying all night and stuff like that, and they would kind of glamorize that whole thing, and it was all a bit sort of cliche, and I've never really been into those kind of bands like Motley Crue and stuff like that, and I feel that this particular Every Time I Die song is basically poking fun at exactly that kind of thing. So in fact I'll call but I mean, even like the opening line, you've got boys shoot to thrill from the hip. It's time we put the act in action. We've tricked the pigs into thinking that this auction is a pageant. Like, there are all these kind of interesting lyrics that, I mean, they just flow really well. Like, the cadence is really good, but you're kind of like, that's cool. Like, what's he trying to say there? And then the more you read, like, I certainly think it's about that anyway, what I said, like they're kind of poking fun at those kind of people that glamorize like that kind of lifestyle. And there's actually a really good line where it says, we don't think in terms of the morning afters, and we don't utter a single word of the night before. In the meantime, we're just thoughtless, incessant, buzzing apparatus, disillusioned and lonelier than the last man standing. It doesn't get any better than this, so run like hell. But you'll have to sort of, after this Zoom chat, like, you should look those lyrics up, because I think as anybody who craves more from their, you know, lyrics when you're listening to a band, I think anybody would sort of read those and be like, yeah, they're really interesting and they're funny as well, sarcastic, and that's his thing really. Keith Buckley is just like, but yeah, you should check them out. It's a great song anyway.
I love it.
At the time, I mean, that must have come out, I think, in 2003. Like, a lot of the bands in a similar scene, a lot of the songs were just quite obviously about love or being loyal or something like that. And Every Time I Die were a band that kind of came at things from a different angle, like they had their own sort of niche. And a lot of it was based around Keith Buckley's lyrics and his vocal delivery.
I love it. It's so, yeah,
Yeah,
I just really, I love what you said as well about, you know, those kind of lyrics that where you sort of have to take a step back and kind of, you know, not in a pretentious way, but, you know, kind of consider and like let something soak in. And like actually like you know, the reason I wanted to do this is because there is something about that, like, yeah, that coming together of like melodies and music and lyrics that is different from, you know, different from poetry. It's different
yeah,
from, you know, reading a novel or whatever. There's something really special about it. And I like what you said about that kind of lyrics that help you to sort of like, I don't know, you almost have to like engage with them. You can't be, you can, well, you know, you can't be passive in one sense if you want to think about them. And I don't
yeah.
know, I just think that's like, you know, I wasn't, we're not going to turn this into some sort of social commentary interview, but it's just so interesting, isn't it? Because I was, you know, watching a Adam Curtis documentary the other day, and you know, he basically talks about how society has been on this slow, this kind of slow and steady kind of escalated towards all of our ideas being fed and all of the things we're supposed to think just being given to us on a platter. And you know, you go on social media and it's just like everything's black and white, and it's, you know, you should have this opinion or you should have this opinion or
Yeah.
you should vote for Trump or you should vote for Biden or whatever. It's so polarized. And so I like that sometimes how things like this can sit in the middle, and it's like, oh, you actually have to like engage with it for yourself. It's like, it's not something that's given to you. There's like
Yeah.
something, yeah, I don't know, you know, something about actually just like sitting with
Well,
something and grappling with it that's like,
it's funny you mention about the portrayal on social media, because this stuff came about when in the whole MySpace era, when, you know, there again, like, I remember being a part of that scene, and um it was a thing to, like, you know, be I think they're sort of aiming this at, like, well, there's a line here actually that kind of sums it up, which says, this is passion, this is red-handed denial. I have no lover and she hasn't the prettiest eyes. And I think, like, it's about those kind of guys that go around just collecting women from shows and stuff like that, and romanticizing this sort of debauched lifestyle. Um, I mean, there was a lot of that stuff sort of going on at the time. So I think, I
yeah,
mean, that's my theory anyway. I think you can, there's a website where you can look up song meanings or something. Um, but yeah, it's just done in a very clever way, and I think they're trying to say, actually, that sort of thing, you know, is not actually all it's cracked up to be.
yeah,
But
totally. Because I remember when I was, you know, I'm a fair bit younger than you, so we weren't going through all these phases at the same time. That wasn't trying to be rude, by the way, but I'm a bit younger than you, and I remember when I was kind of getting into alternative music. Obviously, the straight edge scene was something I came across. Similar thing, you know, this kind of counterculture movement against the sort of classic rock and roll lifestyle of like
yeah,
drinking as much as you can, and you know, or whatever, or just kind of so yeah, again, it resonates, and I remember that just really taking me aback as like a 13, 14-year-old kid, kind of seeing people at gigs with cross on their hands, and it sort of seemed like they had this kind of, I don't know, it was about music, but they also had this whole ideology that was so counter what, you know, rock and roll or heavier music was about, what I thought it was about. So
I think
interesting,
there's
man.
certainly, I mean, there's certainly a lot of music in the rock and roll world that just, it just doesn't have any depth to it. It is just like, oh, let's get drunk and shag women and stuff like that. And you know, that's fine. Like, I love I listen to some stuff like that. Like, yeah, I love AC/DC, and but I think, yeah, certainly, I think that's Every Time I Die's kind of jab at
Yeah.
people that try and sort of glamorize that sort of stuff. I could be completely wrong.
No,
It could
no, no, it's good.
it could be about working in a box factory or something like that. I've just misinterpreted it completely, but that's
No, I
my
love
theory.
it.
All of their lyrics are like that. Like, I've
Yeah.
never heard a bad Every Time I Die lyric.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that puts them up there, doesn't it? For things like this, it's like that's pretty good.
Yeah,
And you know,
they
you are,
can, lyrics can literally make or break a band.
yeah. We'll talk about that. I mean, like we might only get to 2 of your favorite lyrics. I mean, who knows? It's the first time we're doing this, folks. So, you know, who cares? But so talk about that a little bit. Why do they make or break a band?
I mean, I'm not saying that like a band has to have lyrics in order for it to be better. Like, I love instrumental stuff as well. But if you're a band that has vocals and lyrics, I could be listening to something. In fact, I remember years ago, about 10 or 12 years ago, recording a band here, and they were all together, like playing in the live room, but they hadn't done any vocals yet. And I was like, oh my word, this is like one of the best bands I've ever recorded. Musically, it was right up my street. And so I posted on Facebook, oh, I think I'm recording one of the best bands like I've ever worked with, and I tagged them in it. And then a few hours later, when it came to recording the vocal, I was absolutely mortified when I they were just the worst, some of the worst lyrics I've ever heard. The guy's voice just had nothing. Again, I don't care if people can sing in tune or not. It's if they've got character. You know, I love Tim Kinsella and I love Jeffrey Lewis and people like that who technically aren't good singers at all, but their voice has something and they've got interesting lyrics and a way of writing. So this singer had none of that stuff, and it was the kind of lyrics you write as a 12-year-old in your bedroom when you first decide you're going to try and write a song. And I felt really stupid because I posted all over Facebook about how great they were, and so it totally ruined it for me. But then I've heard bands that musically I might not be that fussed about, or I might not be feeling anything, but then when the vocals come in and I hear the lyrics, it totally can turn a corner.
Yeah.
And but in fact, I was going to say my next that kind of leads nicely into my next choice, which is a band that I had heard when I was on tour in America with Unwed Sailor. And the keyboard player Brooks, we were in Little Rock in Arkansas in his apartment, and this band's video came on. And at first I kind of just thought, oh, they sound a bit like Joy Division, or they had some Curie sort of elements and a bit kind of Killing jokey and stuff. I was like, oh, this is quite cool. And then the singer started singing and I thought, oh, he's got a really interesting sort of baritone vocal style. But it's when I heard the lyrics, I was like, wow, they're really interesting lyrics. So it was a band called The National, and it was a song Mistaken for Strangers. And so I got on Google and I started looking up, it was the album Boxer had just come out, which I think was their second record, I can't remember. But anyway, this is 2007. And when I started reading their lyrics, I was like, for my tastes, these are some of the best lyrics I've ever read. And again, they make you think. They're not just the cat sat on the mat sort of things. Like, I don't mind, like, I love bands like the Lemonheads that have really simple lyrics and stuff. But again, the way they're sung and the cadences and things like that work really well. Like, it doesn't always have to be really thought-provoking and deep. But when you hear a band like The National, where he, like Matt Berninger, or Beringer or whatever it is, like, he's got such a unique style of writing and such a amazing way of wording things. Straight away, I was like, I just know I'm gonna like this record because the lyrics are so good. It was like it almost didn't matter what the music was like. Turns out the music was amazing as well. But yeah, that was my next choice. I'm going to call the lyrics up again so I can pick some bits out.
I'm so glad you chose this. I love this song. I mean, I must admit, I'm not like a massive the national aficionado, but this song in particular I love. So I'm so glad you're choosing this. Yeah, read us some lyrics when they come up. I'd love that.
It's amazing. And again, I've got my own interpretation of them. Like, I think it's about people that may perhaps had a dream and decided not to pursue it and have just settled for working for the man, if you like, maybe a high profile city job. There's nothing wrong with those kind of jobs at all, but I think this is aimed at somebody that doesn't really want to be there and doesn't want to be doing that sort of thing, but they're just going to kind of go with it anyway. I think that's why you've got these lyrics like, you get mistaken for strangers by your own friends when you pass them at night under the silvery Citibank lights, arm in arm, and eyes glazing under. Citibank obviously is just a huge corporation.
Yeah.
You know, he's saying you're unrecognizable. So yeah, and there's and then it's the line that comes after that. You wouldn't want an angel watching over. Surprise, surprise, they wouldn't want to watch another uninnocent, elegant fall into the unmagnificent lives of adults. Not only is that an amazing set of lyrics, but the way it's structured, the cadence, the way it flows together, it's so good.
Because I think it's like, you know, I'm not going to do my best impression. It's like, you know, another uninnocent, elegant fall into the unmagnificent lives. It just fits, doesn't it, on the song? And yeah,
it's like you could almost program it on a drum machine, and it would like groove really well. That's one of the things though that was great about Biggie Smalls, like the Notorious B.I.G. He was sort of known as like the king of the cadence, and it was because of the way the words flowed together. You wouldn't know why, it just felt really good to listen to it. And you know, I think the singer from The National is really good at that as well. And again, you know, showered and blue blazered, fill yourself with quarters. You know, you've sold out, like, well, you've got the money at least. I think it's that sort of that's the angle, I think, anyway. Like, I could be wrong, but again, it's written in a way that makes you think.
I've always read it like that, definitely. And like you say, it's not about having any particular opinion on, you know, being a venture capitalist or a banker or whatever. It's more that thing about, you know, it's like, you like, do that if that's what's, you know, it sounds cheesy. Do that if that's what's in your heart. If what's in your heart is to be a landscape gardener, I totally agree. I've always read it in a similar way, and I love the that lyric, the last lyric of the chorus that you read about the another uninnocent, elegant fall into the unmagnificent lives of adults. I just love the word elegant there, because there's basically all these really harsh words like uninnocent, you know, falling, unmagnificent. But there's something I mean, this is just completely my projection, but I've always read that as well, of like doing that is like a loss of something essential and elegant about human beings. Like this, there is this like, you know, this elegant capacity to sort of like dream. There's sort of this you know, honestly, like for me, it's like there's this transcendent quality that when you do something that, you know, like that, where you're selling out or you know, make money, you know, your main goal or whatever, it is kind of this, it's like you're losing something really essential. I don't know. So I love that they put that word in there,
and that unmagnificent lives of adults line as well, like, you know, which is true. I think that's another way of saying this probably isn't what you thought your adult life was going to be, you know, when you were dreaming as a youngster. But yeah, I think in a nutshell, it's just somebody that's not happy with the choice that they've made, but they're not prepared to do anything about it. I think, you know, something in that sort of ballpark,
mate. But so bring us into land. Your third lyric, what have you got for us?
I've got Phoebe Bridgers, Smoke Signals. I mean, to be honest, with Phoebe Bridgers, again, like, I could have chosen any song and they would have been great. That one though is obviously, that's the first song off the first record, and again, I got into that record because I just follow a guy on Instagram who's into like vintage guitar gear and stuff. He's quite this cool sort of American, like, sort of indie kid, and the day that record was released, he just posted on his Instagram story, I'm so proud of my friends, like, this is killer songwriting. This is how you make a record. And he posted the front cover of Stranger in the Alps. And I just thought, that's a really cool looking cover. And because he'd sort of bigged it up so much, I thought, I'll check it out. I was in bed with my headphones on. And as soon as I heard that first guitar come in and that chord progression, I was like, oh, I'm actually feeling something already. And they've only played like 4 chords. And then as soon as her voice came in, the melody, the lyrics, the reference to Lemmy, the references to the Smiths, the references to David Bowie, I was like, yeah, this is amazing. And like we said earlier, that was one of those records where I was like, I need to hear the next song. The next song, completely different vibe, Motion Sickness, but just as amazing. Then the next one is like a folky, you know, funeral one. Like, it's a really varied record, but there's a line in Smoke Signals, and it's like, I want to live at the Holiday Inn while somebody else makes the bed. We'll watch TV while the lights on the streets put all the stars to death. And I just thought that's a really nice way of basically saying, when you're looking at the street lights, you can't really see what's beyond them, but written in a really beautiful way. And like I say, references to the Smiths, references to Bowie, references to Lemmy. Like, it's really deep and really dark and somber. And they're things that make you think. I think any lyrics that kind of really get your imagination going are cool.
It's that theme, isn't it? Because that, I'm, not trying to overanalyze it, but all 3 of your choices, it's exactly what you said. It's like there's something about engaging your imagination where you feel like, I don't know, man. Yeah, again, like it sort of feels like you can sort of participate in it. You're not, again, it's that you can, I mean, equally, you can stick it on and just enjoy it and it could be in the background, but there is something about that music that just sort of calls for you to be like a part of it. You feel like you're sort of engaging with it. And I love that, man. I love it. Love it so much. Well,
no, definitely.
Professor Lucas, which is my nickname for you, because he's a professor, folks, behind the desk. And on any instrument, which is unfair on the rest of us. But mate, thank you so much. Honestly, I couldn't have started off this little this weird and wonderful series of conversations with any better, I don't think. So, mate, thank you so much. And people watching, if they want to find out more about you or the studio, whatever, where can they go if they want to find out a bit more?
Probably either my website, which is Anchorbabyrecordings.com, or my Instagram. I think I'm Dan_Anchorbaby on that one.
Brilliant.
But yeah,
mate,
all the info you need.
Bless you and your dear parrot shirt, your swanky Italian parrot shirt. Sick. Get your orders in now, folks. Next time Dan's on holiday in Italy, we're it's going to bring back half a dozen
I'll stock up
parrot jumpers. Mate, thanks so much.
Tropical stuff. Cool, man.
Thanks, dude.